The words best-selling and philosopher usually don't appear in the same sentence, unless you're Alain de Botton. The thinker, author and TV presenter has clearly tapped a deep need, applying philosophy to life. He's a staunch atheist, but his latest book, Religion for Atheists, he argues there's much the secular world can learn from faith. I spoke with him earlier in Melbourne. Alain de Botton, welcome to 7:30.
Thank you so much.
What on earth would an atheist need religion for?
Well, the assumption is, of course, that if you don't believe in anything, you're going to be completely uninterested in the whole spectre of religion. But my argument is that actually religion is full of useful, interesting, consoling ideas that could be of appeal even to someone who has absolutely no interest in being a believer.
Which bits of religion would you save?
They do community really well. They bring people together around a shared set of values, and that works well. They're also very good on ethics. They're good at reminding us to be nice and to be kind. We're not so good outside of religions. That's not to say that religious people always are like that, but there's a mechanism in place. Religions are great at educating people. You know, one way to look at religions is these are the world's foremost educational machines. And part of the reason they're so good is that they recognize that in order to reach somebody, you can't just sit them in a classroom at the age of, 15 or 20 and just pour in some knowledge and then it's going to stick there forever. Education is an ongoing thing, and it needs to accompany you throughout your life, and it needs to reach you through all the arts.
You were talking before about teaching people to be good and teaching people to be kind. Would you go so far as trying to seek to save sin as an idea?
What I'm trying to rescue there is the idea that we as human beings start off a little bit broken, not quite perfect machines ready for happiness and eternal, good times. We sometimes believe in the modern world that with science and technology at our disposal, we can make life perfect. What all the religions do, especially Buddhism and Christianity, is they start by saying, look, life is really challenging. Human beings are not perfect. Angels are perfect, but humans are not perfect. So life's going to be challenging in all sorts of ways. And oddly, I think, as a secular person, that's quite a nice starting point. I would rather that someone tells me, look, life is going to be challenging, than it's supposed to be all perfect, then you run into problems.
Are you yearning for the ritual, the mystery, the awe that used to be part of a religion, which now seems to be completely stripped out of our daily lives?
It's funny you mention awe, because I think awe is a very important emotion.
And you see that in architecture, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, what most religions do is they take people at a certain time of the year or calendar or week, and they put them in a place and they say, you are very small in the larger perspective, in the cosmos, in the eyes of God, whatever it is. Religion relativizes us, makes us small. And though feeling small could seem like a bad thing, like, hey, don't make me feel small, oddly, being made to feel small by something amazing, religious people would call that God, but you could call that the universe or nature or the ocean. It has a really calming effect on us. And we don't do it enough. We tend to live in cities where the achievements of other humans dominate and where we slowly lose our minds to envy and anxiety until something can just pull us out and reintroduce a wider time frame and a wider sense of space.
You're a very passionate person, aren't you? I get a sense that you are yearning for something in religion that you think you might have lost yourself.
I'm genuinely an atheist, and I'm not questing for God or replacement or a spirit or anything like that. But I think that the secular world has not worked out all the answers, and particularly when it comes to organizing the inner life. I'm really interested in guidance. How do we cope with the fracturing of society? How do we cope with the big hurdles of our life? Falling in love, falling out of love, falling ill, watching people around us die. These are big challenges, and the secular world kind of leaves us on our own. There is no one in the secular world to whom you can turn as an institution to help you with these challenges. If you showed up at a university and you said, I've come here to study, the great works of mankind because I want to learn how to live and die, they would think, hey, you're crazy.
But the question that you ask, how do I live a good life, is fundamental to philosophy, isn't it? It's the question that has been asked throughout the ages. And do you think part of the problem is now that we've deified science and it doesn't even ask those kinds of questions? It answers what questions, not why questions.
Absolutely, absolutely. This science can do wonderful things, send rockets to the moon, etc., but it does not give us consolation. It does not give us a meaning as such. Now, I'm all for using science but for slightly different ends to the ends that scientists use. You know, when I go to an observatory with a scientist, the scientist will say, look, you know, there's the galaxy BW103. And I'm thinking, okay, I don't really care the specific name for the galaxy. What I'm taking away from this is a neo-religious, or if you like, a humanistic truth, which is, my goodness, we're small in a vast universe, and that has implications for us. So I think we can use the material of science, not for scientific ends, but for, as I say, humanistic ends, to help us to live.
How would your father react to the sorts of things that you're saying? Because he was a militant atheist, clearly, and now you're trying to rescue some of the things which he would have thought would perhaps be just fripperies.
You know, I grew up, in a very atheistic household, and you know, since then, we've grown up now with a world where there are some very fierce atheists out there who point out not just that religion is wrong, but that it's ridiculous. And there's a real a dialogue of the deaf going on between, on the one hand, religious people who feel terribly sorry for atheists because they're all going to hell, and at the same time there are atheists who feel terribly sorry for religious people because they're so stupid in their eyes. Both of those positions are caricatures and are not really valid. And what I'm saying as an atheist is, you might have no belief, but absolutely take an interest in this stuff. This is, I think religions are far too useful, complex, intelligent to be abandoned simply to those who happen to believe in them. They're for all of us, especially non-believers.
How do you move from taking the ideas and then applying them in some sort of practical way for a secular world?
Well, there are all kinds of areas. One of the things that religions does is to remind us that we need to make appointments with important ideas. They all give us calendars, and they say, it's all very well to have things you care about, but unless you put them in your calendar, they're going to slip out of the net. So I'm very inspired by, Zen Buddhists, every September, they go and have a little moment where they worship the moon, the festival of Tsukimi. You stand on a special platform, you look up at the moon, and things fall into perspective. You talk about friendship, etc. Or the Jewish Day of Atonement, wonderful day where you forgive people, you confess your errors, not only to God, but to other people. You literally say, I'm really sorry for that thing I did to you, back in March or whatever. Now, these are just examples.
We'd have to do that more regularly than once a year, though.
Probably once a quarter, once a month. But these are examples of things that, without particular reference to the supernatural, an atheist, a secular person, could probably get an awful lot out of.
What about just returning silence to our lives?
Yeah, I mean, for a long time, the idea of a monastery seemed a peculiar thing. Like, why were these guys going off to, sit on their own for so long? I think anyone who's bought a smartphone in the last 5 years is probably now getting a sense of why we need silence, of why we might need spaces where we are completely out of touch. In the religious understanding, we need silence because it's only when there's silence that we'll be able to communicate with God. Translated, what I take away from that is, when there's silence, you're able to talk the deepest parts of yourself. And those things are inaccessible, those parts are inaccessible in the hubbub of the city. And again, religions are terribly useful in marking out moments, and giving us a sense that if you're not spending half an hour on your own in silence a day, you'll be in trouble spiritually. And I know from my own life that's probably true. It's very hard to achieve, but it's a wonderful goal. And we should probably be building, replacement monasteries or places of silence. That is a legitimate ambition for a modern society.
Alain de Botton, thank you.
Thanks so much.